Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Welcome, survivors. This is Eerie Knight of the Pseudo Posse, and I'm here today to bring you a highly requested base that we've received a multitude of comments, a Screamer farm base. In 2 recent videos, we discussed how the heat map works and ways of avoiding Screamers. But several of you pointed out that instead of hiding from the Screamers, you want to do the exact opposite. Farm them for experience and loot bags. Well, I gave it a lot of thought, and this is what I came up with. Behold! The video will be organized like this. First, an overview of how Screamer farm base works, with a description of each major component of the build. The second half of the video is a build guide, which will include more insight into the design itself. Now please, don't feel intimidated. It is actually quite simple. How does it work? Easy. Any functional Screamer base is going to have 3 main components. The first component is the catalyst that gets everything started, the heat generation. As we discussed in our heat map mechanics video, the threshold for potentially spawning a Screamer is at 25 heat. When you reach 25 heat, either no Screamer spawns and we enter a cooldown period in which no heat is accumulated, no Screamer spawns. Or we enter a very long cooldown period in which no heat is accumulated and a Screamer does spawn. For more details, I'd highly recommend checking out that video, link in the video description if you're looking for a deeper dive. Anyways, most crafting stations generate 5 heat per hour, so if we have at least 5, we should reach the 25 instantly. However, according to one of the XML files that references heat, if we reach 100 heat, we are guaranteed to spawn a Screamer, which, if that works, would be excellent. All of that is to say, I've got plenty of crafting stations to hit 100 heat. They all need to be fired up to work, of course, but that should set you on your way to infinite XP. Okay, well that was the first component of the Screamer farm. The second component is extremely important, and we'll call that one the Screamer trap. The idea of a Screamer farm is to spawn some Screamers. Duh. But not kill them. We want to keep them alive so they can keep screaming and spawn more and more zombies for us to kill to get that sweet XP and those dropped loot bags. This means we need to keep her isolated and separated from the fodder. That is the other zombies. So that's where the trap comes in. Now I decided to make this design electricity free so that it can be used at any point in the game. I mention this because everything I will discuss will need to be done manually by you. But if you do have access to electricity, you can definitely automate it. Alright, so that being said, let's trap a Screamer. After she spawns, grab her attention without killing her. Once she is aggroed on you, slip behind your defenses, and once she is on top of you, yoink. Doors up and down she goes. Welcome to the Screamer trap, from which there is no escape. The perimeter of the trap is lined with railings, which is the first line of defense. The second line of defense is the zombie force field outside of the railing prison. These blocks are colored in red. These shapes are not pathable by zombies, so even if she were to break through a railing, she wouldn't be able to leave. This also prevents the zombies she spawns from coming in that way to try and reach us. Except for these little buggers. It looks like these guys are somehow able to make it across despite my off-camera testing. What gives, guys? Way to be team players. Not to worry, I swapped out these shapes for the plate circle empty, which seemed to perform more consistently as a zombie force field in the subsequent test. Why would they ever want to come this way? Because within the railing prison is a ladder that leads to a catwalk that leads to the main path at the top of the stairs. We don't want other zombies to break in and path up this way, effectively freeing her, so the force field should prevent that from happening. But why include this path? That is to keep the Screamer occupied to prevent her from trying to escape. She will climb the ladder to get out, but the railing diagonal block on top will prevent that, forcing her to fall down. She will endlessly do this, and all the while, she will scream, giving us an infinite stream of zombies. Alright, that is the Screamer trap. The third and final component of the farm is the farm itself. Once you trap her inside, leave the doors up so no other zombies will try to path that way. Run over to the farm area and get ready for the onslaught. Since the doors break the path toward all the heat sources, zombies are routed toward the farm. The farm has 2 main features. First, the fighting position is blocked by scaffolds, so you can shoot melee or throw explosives through them. Again, this farm uses no electricity, so we need to do all the killing ourselves. but you could certainly automate all of that if you wish. They'll reach the fighting position by running over pillar 0.0125 centered shapes, which are great because it will allow most zombies to reach us. The ones that don't will fall down, run back around, up the ladder to repeat. The ones that do reach us are either killed or fall down to repeat the same loop. The second feature of the farm is the loot bag collector. For demonstration purposes, I created a little mod to boost the loot bag drop rates across the board. I've also made a less ridiculous version of the mod available for all to use. Link in the video description below. Anyways, the platform in which zombies land on is also where the loot bags will drop when we kill them from up above. Lining the platform are more scaffolds so zombies cannot pass through. And on the other side of those, colored in red, are yet again the same zombie force field blocks we used on the screamer trap. This will prevent zombies after falling down from attempting to skip the loop and instead bash through the scaffolds and make their way over to us. As loot bags collect, we can simply run down the stairs, head over to the force field, and grab the bags through the scaffolds. Then run back up, keep killing more zombies to get more XP and more loot bags, rinse and repeat. It should also be mentioned that you can use this loot bag collection design in any Horde base, which will allow you to collect loot bags during the Horde. This design can be used right from the beginning of the game, so feel free to take advantage of that. Okay, that's all the major components of the Screamer farm. Let's tie it all together and summarize. It should be noted I chose to separate all three components to make them more visually distinctive, but you could condense the design and, for example, put the heat source generation above or below your fighting position. But each component represents the 3 steps you need to perform to get your Screamer farm up and running. Step 1. Generate heat till you spawn a Screamer. Step 2. Trap the Screamer, draw her attention, yoink the doors from underneath her, and trap her in an endless loop in which she can't escape, and other zombies refuse to break in. And step 3, profit. Carve up all the summoned zombies for experience and loot bags. Alright, that's how a functional Screamer base works. If that's all you need to get started, then fantastic. However, if you're looking for a deeper dive into the construction and design decisions I made along the way, stick around for this next part in which we'll step through the Screamer farm build. I'll share all my insights and little tricks, so this will be especially useful for beginners. We're going to start with the stairs. Any stair shapes will do, but for this particular build, I use the stairs hollow railing metal left, stairs hollow railing metal right, and the ramp incline filler. Place the left and right stairs side by side. Left goes left, right goes right, and filler goes behind so we can stack more left-right stairs on top. We'll repeat this process till it becomes necessary to add some supports for structural stability. I use the pole double shapes for this purpose. On the ground, I chose to use the cube half-corner 0-1 shapes to provide a foundation for our pole doubles. Originally, I was thinking to build this base at least 15 blocks above the ground to prevent zombie rage, but with how I ultimately ended up designing the build, I didn't actually need to make use of it. So you could actually make it about this high and save on a ton of materials, especially if you want to start farming early game. The rest of the build would be exactly the same, just closer to the ground. But if you don't want to take advantage of my hindsight, please feel free to continue building higher with me. Once you do reach the top, you can use some cube half corners to provide the initial walkway for zombies and also to run additional pole double support columns all the way to the ground. We are now going to continue constructing the Screamer trap. Start with some cube half shapes and continue the railings from the stairs using the catwalk V2 railing only single. Cap the ends with catwalk V2 railing only end. From top to bottom, start building the Screamer cage using the railings. At the bottom, fill in the cage floor with the cube shapes and finally connect the railings to the cube floor. This next part is very important for setting up the zombie force field. Unpathable shapes are not enough. They need to be positioned with an air gap below them. If there is a pathable shape, like the ground itself, directly touching the force field blocks, then it won't work. So we need to dig down. I'll accomplish that quickly by using the block replace tool, but for you survivors out there, grab your shovels and start digging. With the pit dug, we're going to outline the perimeter with full cubes. And so we have a pit on all sides. Let's remove the ground at the far end and continue the cube perimeter. Now that we've dug out the pit, I don't like all the dirt blocks holding up our cage floor, so I'm going to replace those with full cubes as well. Time for the force field shapes, and for that we'll be using the slope plate corner filler. Simply fill them in above the pit in between the cage floor and the perimeter. This will prevent the screamer from escaping and deter other zombies from trying to path up through the cage. Except, recall in the first part of the video, I ended up switching to the window plate circle empty shape, so I would strongly recommend using this shape instead. It is possible the hit points from the railings would provide enough deterrence, but this is an extra safeguard. Feel free to try it without the force field, especially early game when the zombies are weaker. If you find the railings aren't enough after a certain point, then dig the pit. The rest is pretty easy, though tedious. We need to stack all the railings all the way up. We're going to support our doors with some pillar 0.025 meter shapes and placed immediately on top of the railings, and above those pillar 0.025 meter doubles. Place these 2 blocks high with the second row level with the existing railing. Time to place the doors. It bears mentioning that once you can use power doors, you can automate this part, but regular doors will function quite well if you want a more simplistic design. Make sure they are placed flat against the pillar 0.025 meter double shapes. I placed 3 doors here, but later discovered only the first 2 are reachable. Next, build a cube structure vertically and extend it across to meet the doors. Place the scaffold and ladder down. This will prevent the screamer from running past the doors and allow you to open the doors from here. But like I said, the third door isn't reachable, so I eventually removed it. The last part of the screamer trap is the ladder catwalk pathway, starting from within the cage with the ladder. Raise the ladder up the side of the cage underneath where there is no door. At the top of the ladder, place a railing diagonal shape. This will cause the screamer to fall off the ladder when trying to climb. From the ladder, extend some catwalk around using the catwalk V1 railing double. You don't need to use catwalk specifically, any pathable shape will work, but I like the look of it here. For extra protection against the screamer popping up, extend the railing a bit higher. Add another diagonal railing and some railings blocking the top to completely block her inside. This is why we place this setup away from the doors, as this would prevent her from falling inside the cage. The rest of it is easy. Extend the catwalk toward the upper path and connect it with a ladder. Now we're ready for a quick test with a screamer. As she approaches the scaffold, we open the door beneath her, dropping her inside. Now she is completely trapped. Can't make it out of the cage, so she resorts to climbing, and that keeps her occupied till eternity, or until we kill her. For the heat generation component of the build, this can be built however you like. Its only function is to hold all the crafting stations required to generate the heat, so it can really be anything. For my build, I decided to give it an almost half donut shape, as I want to wrap it around the screamer trap to the farming location. I used full cubes for most of the foundation and some ramps to smooth out the right angle contours. Instead of building walls all the way up, I opted to use pillar 1 meter columns to support the top floor. I placed enough of them to provide more than enough structural support, and once completed, filled in said top floor. Time to fill in the walls using the same blocks we've used for the floor. Basically just copying the shape and placing them. For a little decoration, I used the ramp window 01 centered shapes and placed 4 of them to create a square window rotated 45 degrees. And I liked it so much I made a couple more of them. Normally I don't like to include windows in builds, as cops and whatnot can see through you and spit. But since we won't be here during the farm, it is perfectly safe to add a bit of flair. And to add a bit of extra contour, I intermixed some cube 3/4 shapes. I like to use these to add a bit of definition to a build, and they are cop spit and screamer safe blocks in general, so they can be used anywhere safely. I played around with it for a bit till I liked the look of the facade, and then proceeded to finish up the other walls. Up top, I filled in the space with scaffold ladders for no particular reason. Inside, I started placing all of my workstations. You can make your heat generation source your actual crafting area and include any forges or other stations you need to use in the general course of play. Or you can place a mass campfire farm, which does save a ton of space as they occupy only a single block. I did run out of room on the floor, so I used some plate pulls and plates to essentially create a shelf that could hold even more campfires, and a nice little ladder to reach the top ones. It is a bit squeezed, but we won't be spending time in here anyhow. Our next task is to start working on the pathways that will ultimately lead to the farming location where we will kill zombies. Start with a pillar from the ground up, and that will support the path. Next, extend cube half blocks we used from the Screamer trap section and route those over to the pillar. From the heat generation tower, place down some catwalk, but stop short of fully connecting to the main path. Instead, fill the rest of the distance in with scaffold or any non-pathable shape. We want to prevent zombies from running inside our heat farm and destroying any of our campfires. Okay, time to work on the farming location directly. Extend out the path a bit and support from the bottom when needed for stability. Select the pillar 0.0125 meters centered and place about 4 of them. The longer you make it, the less zombies will reach you. These shapes work great as a zombie filter. If you are in need of other such shapes or other Horde-based shenanigans, you should definitely check out our 80+ ultimate beginner tips for Horde-based building. Link in the video description. We don't want ours too long, as we want zombies to reach us, so we can kill them. It will, however, make several zombies drop before reaching us, preventing us from getting too overwhelmed. Upon looking at this, I did decide to add a new support column so I could remove the other ones. Reason being, I wanted a gap in between the loot collection platform and the support pillars. When zombies drop down, I don't want them to beat on the support pillars, so I moved them 1 block back. The loot bag collection platform is easily constructed by placing down some force field shapes, the same ones we used for the Screamer trap, followed by the actual platform using the cube quarter meter, and the scaffolds at the other end. We'll be extending the force field shapes around the platform so we can grab loot from different angles. And wherever we have a force field, we have a scaffold placed directly on top of it, with the edge against the platform. Place it this way. Do not, I repeat, do not place the scaffolds on top of the loot bag floor itself. Otherwise, zombies will be able to climb the scaffolds. From the platform, we need to route it back toward the top path so any zombies that fall can run back around. To do that, we'll extend the cube quarter meter path toward a ladder extending down from the main pathway. The rest of the actual farming base can be designed however you like. Just make sure to place the scaffolds blocking the pillar 0.0125 meter centered path to prevent zombies from actually reaching you. Also make a way from your platform down to the loot bag collection area. This is actually quite important as you want it to be connected to the bottom floor so zombies still see a way to you and continue the path around while you are down collecting loot bags. Other than that, the rest can be designed however you like. I extended the platform a bit and ultimately added some finer details in the final look. This includes some scaffold railings on the sides, lined with a pole on top, supported by cube quarter meter underneath. Well, I hope you all have a solid foundation to go forth and build your own Screamer farms.
So many loot bag on the bottom. Your base didn't work. Your loot dropper is no.
That's because I made it a normal size loot dropper for a normal size amount of loot bags. And with the mod, that made it much larger.
It's still not working. You're supposed to have all loot bag in the loot dropper.
I see, critic, I see.
It's a design flaw. You need to do better.
Give you design flaw. If you have any questions for this build or any suggestions for future videos, share it in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer as many questions and comments as I can. But even if I don't get to yours, I make an effort to read all the comments so your voice will be heard. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video or love to hate it, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications so you can leisurely watch or hate watch our next video at your convenience. Before we close, I want to extend a special thank you to all of our wonderful Patreon members. Your support truly makes the difference in the quality of our videos, so thank you all so much. On that note, this is Eerie Knight signing off. See you all in the next one.